G'day guys, just Rob again, just bringing in another video. Today I'm sort of thought I might do something a little bit different and something I sort of wanted to do perhaps for quite a while now. I want perhaps to sort of show off some of my sort of animation collection, just some of the DVDs and Blu-rays that I've got, just some of the sort of animated movies that I've got, and something I sort of want to do for a while, and for different reasons I haven't sort of done it. I think one of the sort of main reasons is that I don't just have sort of physical copies of some of the movies that I've sort of watched and want to sort of talk about, but mainly because sometimes they either don't have a DVD or a Blu-ray release, or they're very expensive to sort of buy. So there's other ones I need just sort of downloaded, because that's pretty much the only way you can sort of actually sort of watch some of these movies. But I have sort of recently managed to sort of track down some of the ones that I really wanted to get sort of physical copies of. In time I might perhaps sort of show some of them off. Today I've actually got one that just a bit of a random one that I sort of picked up recently, and it's kind of a bit of a blind buy I suppose, but I did sort of read about it online. It did actually come recommended. It's actually a documentary on like an animated filmmaker, made from the sort of time of sort of late 60s, early 70s. The actual documentary itself is actually called Alter Egos, but that's the actual sort of DVD itself is actually called Brian Larkin. He was like a sort of a very talented sort of artist, animated artist from, as I said before, late 60s, early 70s sort of time frame. So it's just sort of about the documentary itself, sort of just about his life, and there's sort of the 10-minute sort of animated feature just called Ryan. Kind of a bit hard to explain. It's not necessarily perhaps a tribute. It's more of a, the actual director was sort of a fan of Ryan and sort of tracked him down, and basically the animation itself is just sort of contains sort of audio recordings of their conversations, of just them sort of talking, and just sort of being animated, and it's sort of kind of a bit of a tribute, a bit of sort of feature of sort of their relationship, I guess together. So the basic sort of story, Ryan, for late 60s, he was made sort of a lot of features that were just really, really acclaimed, and lots of people really liked him, and he was really sort of highly praised for, for his sort of his animated features. His first main one was one called Walking, which was, I think it was 1968. I think that one came out. And it was actually nominated for an Academy Award, but it didn't actually win. And then, a few years later, he made another one called Street Music, which is another really good one. And I actually might leave some links below to some of these some of these features. You can sort of watch some of these on YouTube, so I might do that. Just great animation, and all sort of hand drawn, and there's no sort of rotoscoping involved, which was, for people that don't know, rotoscoping is when you sort of record live footage and then sort of draw over the animation. To sort of get the fluid right there, as in the case of walking, people walking down the street, just to try and get the sort of fluid animation right. You can sort of record live footage and then just of a normal person walking down the street, and then animate it over it. Was the case of what Ryan did. He actually did that by hand, the whole lot. There was no sort of, everything was in his mind, and he drew the whole thing out, which is a great feat when you consider it's all very sort of great attention to detail, and sort of the muscles and the legs, and sort of moving fluidly, sort of thing, which is just great. But you sort of made those sort of two main features and a few other ones. But I think by the sort of early 70s, he'd become addicted to cocaine, and he basically his career, or his creative, pretty much dried up after that, and he didn't sort of make another feature. So essentially the documentary itself sort of made in 2004, so it's sort of about his life, from that sort of period to now, basically. So he's sort of finding that he's got off the cocaine, but he's got a bit of an alcohol problem, and drinks a bit too much, and sort of living on the streets, I guess, and sort of asking for change, type thing. And so eventually, the director Chris Landreth, I think that's his name. You sort of made the film and sort of made the 10-minute sort of feature. Obviously he was a big sort of fan of Ryan, so he sort of tracked him down, and just about their conversations, I guess, and his sort of take on on what they sort of talked about, I guess. Yeah, I mean the 10-minute feature I thought was actually really quite good actually, because Chris is also the director, is also he's like an animator as well, so it's sort of half his sort of take on it, and his tribute, I suppose, and so that's sort of kind of like a computer generated type stuff, which is actually quite good. I'm not necessarily a fan of computer generated graphics. It's actually, I think, really good. It's sort of just about them talking, and Chris is a fan of Ryan, so he doesn't want to see him, die of alcohol poisoning or something, or he wants to sort of see him create more animation, and cause I think his mother died in real life. She sort of died of alcohol, drink too much alcohol, so he sort of doesn't want to see the same thing sort of happen to Ryan. So he sort of confronts Ryan about this, and I guess like a young person would, I guess, not sort of thinking too much into it, I suppose. And Ryan he's just sort of this pause of about 20 seconds, and then Ryan just explodes and just says, what sort of right do you have to tell me to stop drinking alcohol, sort of thing. And Chris is a bit shocked and doesn't sort of say anything for quite a while, type thing. That was a pretty pivotal scene, I guess. I guess the young person, I guess, perhaps not necessarily understanding, I guess, what sort of Ryan's gone through, or it's not necessarily that easy to sort of just to give up. He's already given up, cocaine. It'd be even more harder perhaps to give up drinking, alcohol. You need to have some sort of vice. You can't just give up. You can't necessarily go cold turkey, all the way type thing. But anyway, that's a great sort of scene. And if you sort of watch the 10-minute feature and the documentary, you sort of might think that maybe it might just be cocaine that was sort of the major sort of contributing factor, I guess, to what sort of happened to him, type thing. But if you sort of watch the documentary with the commentary, you sort of get a bit more of a sort of behind the scenes idea, and it might not necessarily just being, the cocaine would have perhaps been a contributing factor. It's a bit hard to sort of tell, I suppose, just what might have contributed to it, I guess. Ryan was definitely he's very talented, and he sort of made these films, and he sort of was, everyone sort of loved him. He was really highly praised, and I think the film should even sort of sent him on college tours. He used to go to schools and sort of show his animation off, and in some ways it just might have been a bit too much for him, and to try and come back and then try to do another feature which was going to be equally as good was really sort of daunting task. And that's perhaps why he perhaps took to cocaine, perhaps to sort of get a bit of creativity back again. And he also had some few sort of failed relationships over through his life, and that might have contributed to it. Also, I think his brother died around the same sort of time, so he's sort of trying to deal with that as well. And there's a lot of sort of theories that maybe that it might just not necessarily been the drugs that sort of was a major contributing factor, I guess. But yeah, definitely, I don't want to go on too much, but it's definitely a great, especially if you're a fan of animation or just a fan of documentaries, I guess, just in general. I think this is definitely a good sort of one to sort of watch and pick up. Might even perhaps be able to, I don't know, perhaps watch it on YouTube, I don't know. But I'll certainly leave some links perhaps just to his short features that he made, the walking and the street music, and a few other ones I'll find. He actually died, I think, 2008. I think it was 2008, a few years after this documentary had been made. I think he was actually working on a feature at the time. I don't know if he'd sort of finished it or not, but you can sort of get that on DVD. I actually just watched it on YouTube just a few minutes before I sort of made this video. I think it was actually quite a good sort of feature. I thought that one, the sort of 5-minute sort of animation that Ryan had done. He directed it and did a lot of the animation for. I don't know if he sort of finished it before he died, but it's definitely sort of been completed, I suppose. So you can buy it on DVD. So I might perhaps track that one down if I can. But yeah, definitely, great. Definitely, I've really enjoyed watching it, and great sort of animation, and very interesting sort of story, and yeah, definitely worth a watch. Yes, that's my video, I guess. If you want to perhaps wouldn't mind perhaps making some more videos. So I'd love to sort of hear if you people want to sort of see some more of these type of videos from me or not. Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, thanks for watching.